very, very happy Women's Day to all of you lovely ladies. We're so excited. And today I'm going to cheat a bit because today we're talking about let's get on our me be poso. So it's a tough word to pronounce, but we want to talk about mind, we want to talk about the body, we want to talk about purpose, and we absolutely want to talk about the soul. All of these things are so important as we start to think about our health and especially being healthy in today's time. So we had a session last week and we talked about what is more important, or is health more important, or wealth, or is health equal to wealth? Would love to hear your views. That do you think the two are equal, or which one do you think is more important? Because I hope we'll convince you by the end of this that being healthy is the most important wealth that you can have. And I've got with me Dr. Ashima, I've got with me Dr. Monica Mahajan, and we're going to get right started. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my partner in crime, which is Dr. Aishwarya Shukla. She's a renowned psychotherapist, she's a lifestyle coach, and she's a mind-body medicine expert. She's got over 20 years of experience. She is the CEO and founding director of the Prana Center for Integrative Medicine and has pioneered an integrative approach to optimal health as one of the first Indians to train in mind-body medicine at the Harvard Medical School. She's also a mother of two, an artist, a floral designer, and seeks spiritual grounding in her nature and among the mountains where she grew up. A little bit about Prana, who is actually one of the main contributors to this forum, is it's a center for integrative medicine, and it's India's first holistic health care and wellness center that offers evidence-based, relationship-centered, and personalized care by integrating allopathic and alternative methods of treatment and healing. So a very, very warm welcome, Dr. Ashima. Happy to have you as my partner in crime for this. Ashima, you're muted.
So happy to be here, Sukriti, and thank you so much. And it's such a pleasure to collaborate, like always, and host today's session on holistic health focused on women, particularly including all aspects of health, which is like mind, body, soul, purpose, and with sipping thoughts, of course. And of course, you also have your business world here. It's such a pleasure always, and a lot of fun that we have exploring women issues.
So, Dr. Ashima, I'm going to jump right into it. You know, we had COVID, and now we have this Omicron, and now they're saying there's another variant. So we're constantly confused, but we're happy to be getting back to normal. And, you know, but that also has given us a lot of change. What do you think? And you see so many patients on a daily basis. What's the biggest issue today that women are facing?
See, Sukriti, what happened is the last 2 years have been very full of uncertainties and fear and anxiety and anxious moments for everyone across the globe. And pandemic changed our lives and particularly our lifestyle. I think people just forgot what they were doing earlier and things changed for them. And on an individual level, each one of us was learning to cope with feelings of anxiety and a lot of stress and isolation, particularly. And, the new routine, working from home, balance relationships at home, and social distancing, loss of lives. There's been a rise in cases of mental health issues, chronic stress, lifestyle disease, and also syndrome, fatigue, and PTSD, and a lot of marriage counseling happened during this.
Lots of marriage counseling.
Lots of them. So, so I personally feel I think emotional well-being has been a major issue that has emerged.
So, Ashima, you're coming in and out. I think you've been muted again. Do check.
Yeah, right.
If you're using headphones, just take those off.
Yeah, I think. Am I back?
Yes,
No?
you are back.
Yeah, okay. So, okay, so I personally feel emotional well-being has been a major, emerging health issue or a concern that has come. And as many people who previously were able to cope up, during this COVID related stressors that was generated, I think all these issues came up more. And but having said that, I think looking at the positive side, Sukriti, I think there were a lot of challenges and stressors, but there was a major focus or a mental shift happened in the last 2 years, more towards mental health. People started reaching out. A lot of women reached out and started talking, and that,
There's been a big acceptance that, okay, it's
yeah,
all right to talk about mental health, and actually that we need to talk about mental health.
exactly. And I'm so, because this is a very positive sign, because globally mental health became like a focus point, and people were okay talking from home. Online sessions really increased, and another amazing thing that happened is that we all learned a lot of, there were a lot of life learnings that happened, and an urge to take a journey inward, and people started looking for seeking life purposes, meaning. They went back to things that they really enjoyed doing. So women have faced challenges in the last 2 years, but they have emerged even more resilient, I feel, and they are more open and to talk about their mental, emotional well-being.
But I'm going to ask you a personal question and tell me, ladies, if you're also feeling this because I want to hear from you. You know, also, I feel a little bit of stress and anxiety also getting back to normal. And I joke and I say, you know what? I don't know how to wear shoes anymore because wearing heels, again, I feel like I need to learn how. I don't know how to socially communicate. Even getting dressed, I sometimes
Dress,
feel
yeah,
is a
right,
challenge
right,
because
right.
matching everything, I've become so lazy that I'm only wearing my top off, So there is a little bit of stress also in getting back to normal.
Definitely, definitely. And you're so right, Sukirti. I think we all got so used to having this online world where ultimately, like, people forgot the saris were inside, the best dresses were in their closet, and now it's all opening up, and there's a brighter side to life that's emerging. So, yeah, but I think when we talk about tips that can come or things that people can do, is definitely we have to continue focusing on our lifestyle. We need to go back and have healthy habits, be it getting adequate sound sleep where people feel refreshed, because sleep plays a major role, not only our emotional health but also our physical health as well. Eat healthy food, because I think COVID also taught us to have a lot of fresh homemade food, cook homemade fresh healthy food. I think we should continue with that. Exercise should be a priority. People should exercise now more outside, which was restricted. Then, along with this, meditation, mindfulness, and also yoga, this the benefits of these things go a very, very long way in ensuring good health, and also keeping us away from major lifestyle diseases. Maintaining healthy social connection that got disconnected because people were more, online, virtual world was there, and that plays a major role in, in our overall well-being. We need to meet people, we need to chat, we need to
And
connect.
I'm going to ask you a question because I think Meena has also brought it up. Because this is exactly about the meeting people and this worry and this fear that we have. And she says, I'm worried I have so much weight. So now how will I face my office colleagues? I'm worried. And
Yeah,
how should I face them? I'm also worried that I'm not as, what they say, it as conversant as I used to be.
yeah, yeah.
Because I think
No,
she's asking the truthful question. We've all getting
absolutely.
those freshman 20.
No, I think it is very important that, see, the most important thing is to just accept and be at peace. I mean, it's okay if you gain weight, it's okay if you look different. So all the time trying to remember who you were, it's not a very healthy way. I think we need to be in the present moment and take charge and start doing things that will make our life not only cosmetically beautiful, that is, of course, it's important aspect of life, but I think more than that is, how are you feeling, how is your health, what is your fitness level. And I think that is the real beauty lies there, and we have to focus there, what's inside. And that's what I was saying. Get regular health checkups done, just take charge of things that we have missed out on. Stay curious, stay enthusiastic, and do things, try and find new purposes and goals in life, and definitely keep loving yourself. I always say that it's so important to keep loving yourself and be as compassionate and kind to yourself, because as we normally are with other people, the family, children.
I love this
Parents.
first tip because I think this is the first one is that we've become so socially isolated that but we have to get out there, we have to get back and
Absolutely.
it's like those fears are just in our minds because I think honestly ladies like I'm telling you I'm dealing with it. I think most of us are dealing with
Yeah,
it. We
yeah.
just have to put on those shoes and walk gawkily and just
Absolutely.
get
Yeah. I think reclaim, start doing things that we always loved. Because if we keep revisiting that, oh, life was this, how do we go back? I think we are so adaptable as human beings and so resilient that we always have the innate capacity to bounce back. And especially women. I feel they have the amazing capacity to just bounce back and adapt to situations and excel. It's not just that they just do it, but they do, they are, absolutely beautiful out there.
So I love the first tip that, and Meena is also saying true self compassion is most important. Please do remember that. And not only self compassion for yourself, but also self compassion for others. Please
Others, yeah.
also, because all of us are facing a little bit of, like I said, fear going back to now, what is
Yeah.
a new environment?
Yeah. No, you're so right. I think, Supreet, that's a very important point. When we go back to work, I think meeting people after so long, being again in the system, we're trying to adapt to newer systems. A lot of companies have gone digital. You've got used to the digital world for 2 years. It's important to be more compassionate toward others. A lot of people who have been dealing with a lot of losses, griefs in the personal level. People have lost lives, their loved ones in the COVID, and also the ups and downs and the stresses that pandemic brought with it. So you are absolutely right. Being more compassionate towards yourself and others, and more embracing.
So
Embrace the
let's all
situation.
give a thumbs up for that. And please just put a thumbs up and say, yes, I will be compassionate, first of all, to myself and then to others, because I think so important. And I know you talk a lot about the second point, and I want you to get to that because what happens here is what happens here.
Absolutely. So yeah, so I've been practicing mind body medicine for now almost 2 decades now, and the essentially, we all have innate power of healing, and our thoughts, beliefs, belief systems, attitude, then of course our genetic makeup. I mean, everything, and most importantly, lifestyle decisions. They are responsible for our emotional, mental, physical, and social well-being. And health, according to WHO, as they say, is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease and infirmity. And I believe so strongly in this that health cannot be addressed in silos. It has to encompass all these factors. And our Indian traditional medicine also emphasize that the whole body, it's the mental and the your feelings, your emotions, everything has to be taken in account when we talk about good health or well-being. So holistic approach is the definitely complete approach to health, and it involves two things. One is, of course, your whole body, that is in the mental, physical, social, spiritual, everything. And the second part is also using um, uh, different modalities, treatment using various practices from alternative medicine, complementary medicine, traditional medicine, yoga, Ayurveda, and using all of it. There's so much treasure here, using it all for your benefit.
I'm going
And
to ask you a question here because there's always a lot of questions that if I'm an allopathic or Ayurvedic or homeopathic, can I mix and merge or is it like, you follow one stream of medicine? Because this always concerns us because some people say, no, I want to do only this or I want to do only this.
yeah. No, I think that's a very valid question here, because I've faced this. Because people who come, they feel that, okay, we are already taking Ayurveda, so hum dawai nahi khayenge. People who take dawai, they said no, no allopathy, no other holistic treatment. So there's a huge divide. Very right. So what we did, and that was primarily the reason why I felt that when there's so many things available, and it's just there, it's not like it interferes. We I opened this Prana Center simply because we wanted to focus on the health and well-being of the whole person, and also the unique characteristics of individuals, because we are all unique beings. We can't have same pill for all, policy, and treating the root cause, not just symptomatic relief. Having said that, I also feel that integrating, because medicine has its own place. I mean, look at the last 2 years. Look at the doctors who've brought in so much and saved lives. So it's the medicine has its own role, surgery has its own role, but along with just integrating it with holistic or alternative modalities is what we are trying to establish for the first time, actually. And a lot of people ask me this question: how are you doing it? And I think it's very simple, because if we just look at the body, and not just look at the body, we look at the mind, the feelings, the emotion, the social life impacts us, the relationship impacts us, the spiritual being impacts us. So healing the mind, body, and soul is the right approach. So, and that's what we are trying to do.
And
And
that's what we're talking about today: mind, body,
exactly,
soul. We've added another one: purpose.
purpose. Yeah,
We
yeah,
also feel that's very, very important because
yeah.
that's what gives you that oomph to kind of get up
Definitely,
and move forward.
definitely. And Sukriti, I've seen that women health is perhaps the most important, and but I don't know why it's a much neglected area. Women have a tendency of not prioritizing their health at all. That's like last priority. And in my practice, whether it was mind body medicine or even integrative that I see, I find that they put their health as a last priority. They will take care of their family comes first, children come first, husband, parents, in-laws, everybody's health. They'll take care of everyone. Even at work, they're taking care of their colleagues and everyone. But when it comes to their own health, somehow, I don't know, there's a consistent pattern of neglecting, overlooking health issues, postponing visits to doctors, or even addressing simple stress issues. उसको वो लोग सोचते हैं ठीक है अपने आप ठीक हो जाएगा. Just they just don't prioritize it. And emotional well-being is something that sometimes they just forget. They say, okay, we'll sleep, we'll have a cup of coffee, it'll be fine. So I think it's high time. I mm, uh, strongly feel that we should now, uh, mm, you know, uh, prioritize our health, and we don't have to wait for 8th of March every year to emphasize the how
I think
important
on
we are.
8th of March, though, we should be reminded of this because honestly, you can be as wealthy as you are, you can do anything, but at the end of the day, if you're not healthy, and I tell this to everybody, like, our age is getting longer. We're going to probably live till 80, 90, 100. So you have to take
Longevity,
care of this
yes, yes, yes.
body, you know?
But what I was trying to say is we really don't need this date to remind us that
Yes.
we are important, our health is important, and our well-being, our happiness, everything is important, and we need to do it consistently over the whole year, for months and days. Each day we should just emphasize and take out that time for our health. We have to shift our priorities. We have to shift our mindset, and make it like a whole health. Not only when we have health issue should we run to doctors, but just maintaining good health. And because and it all begins with self. It all begins with self. So I totally want to emphasize today that self care is very important part of health and well-being. And it's not being when we talk about self care, it's not being selfish.
Selfish.
It's not being self-centered. No, it is the beginning. In fact, it's the best way to take care of your health and happiness and well-being. And one should just do it. And how do we do it? I mean, I think self-care begins with just being aware, being interested and invested in your own health. Don't ignore or delay visits to doctor if you like feel that there is some health issue. Just pick up the phone, go to the doctor. If you feel there's some emotional change that has been recurring for a long period of time, you're not being able to deal, or there are some stresses that are just giving you headaches, backaches, or you can actually read the body symptoms also with stress. And your heartbeats has not been very regular. Just pick up the phone, visit a doctor, or just have online sessions, because I think that will just be the first step for you to take care of your health, and it needs to be done. And it's as simple as going to a doctor for fever or a flu. That has to be encouraged. And take out me time. One thing that happened, of course, in COVID is a lot of people got time to connect with things that they loved, and please continue doing that. That is the most beautiful aspect of it. And talking helps a lot, Sukirti. And I think we have to encourage that. Just share, talk of all the feelings or emotions that you're feeling. Do not delay. Do not bottle up. Do not carry a baggage. Just reach out, seek help, and go to the doctor. It's very, very important. So that is these are few things. And I think besides this, you have to learn to how to cope with stress. That's another thing that people are not doing right now. I think we need to learn to cope with, manage our stress levels, whether it is financial, whether it is work related, whether it is relationship related. We need to work on that. And because stress is a part of life, and we have seen it, it's all around us. What matters is how we react to it. So if we learn to react in a more resilient way, if we have a coping skills of keeping ourselves more relaxed, so I would emphasize that we develop a kind of a routine of relaxation regime every day, be it just meditating, mindfulness activity, chanting, or just doing any activity which like simple gardening, listening to music, because this will keep our stress hormones low and the cortisol level in the body low, and activate the parasympathetic nervous system more, which is in any case will keep us calm and collected and peaceful and more happier, and definitely goes a long way in preventing lifestyle diseases. And that brings me to the lifestyle habits. We must ensure at least 7 to 8 hours of sound, uninterrupted sleep. That will, that goes along. That will really ensure good health. At least 30 minutes of some physical activity, 4 to 5 times a week. Eating.
And when you say 30 minutes, I'm going to come back to this because this is always in question. Because now it's always in question that I even read that we don't need 10,000 steps, now we need 5,000 steps. What is
Yeah.
your recommendation? Because people want to be very explicit. When you say 10 minutes of exercise, is it rigorous exercise? Is it just a walk around the park? What is required for the body to be healthy? Is it 30 minutes of yoga is good enough? What is required? Dr.
I
Ashima?
think, yeah, am I there?
Yes, you are.
Yeah. So I think what is important as far as exercise is concerned is we are all different. So, we have to listen to our body and our health, whatever our health condition is. Some people can really exercise for 2 to 3 hours a day. This is the minimum requirement, because when we work for 10, 30 minutes per day, it can be anything. It could be like a walk, go for a run, or to the gym, or some simple dance. I mean, even dance is a good physical exercise if somebody can do it. 30 minutes to an hour, but at least 5 times a week if we are not being able to do it every day. But that will ensure that the body keeps working at least 48 hours on what we are trying to achieve inside. That is important. And then when I come to diet, I feel we need to eat fresh food, local, seasonal, and most importantly, eat it mindfully and slowly for better absorption of whatever we are eating. Because we have a tendency of just grabbing a sandwich here, eating food here while working, while talking. I think we need to change this habit and peacefully enjoy our food while talking to others. And
Dr. Ashima, I think, have we lost her connection?
yeah, I'm back.
Okay.
I think I was away for, yeah. Anyway,
Just repeat that, the eating mindfully part.
yeah, I think, Sukriti, I wanted to emphasize that it's very important that we have our food mindfully and peacefully, and we chew our food properly and not be distracted. Because when we are eating foods while on the move or doing multitasking, I think that doesn't help us proper food assimilation and digestion, and that leads to a lot of reflux or acidity problem in women, and then they pop, all these kinds of
Now,
antacids.
when you're talking about food, there's lots of talk about these immunity diets. Do they work, and are there certain foods that do increase our immunity?
I think when it comes to immunity, it's never one thing, and it's never immediate. So immunity is built over a period of time, and immunity is also about consistently practicing certain things, very closely related to your lifestyle. So whether it is certain foods or certain habits, your immunity keeps building, and you are able to conquer any kind of disease or infection or virus. So the food part, of course, in the last 2 years, we've discovered a lot of food coming from Ayurveda, and also generally, I mean, people said, okay, you eat this, आप चाहे टर्मरिक दूध पीजिए उससे आपकी इम्यूनिटी बढ़िया हो जाएगी. So this all this still remains to be seen, because we've all done it, and it does help. But what goes a long way in building immunity is definitely eating very nutritious food, getting good sleep, having regularity as far as your exercise is concerned, and healthy habits. So that really helps a lot. Then, of course, I feel what we can look at now is, uh, as far as food is concerned, cut down things which are white. I mean, just have it. You can reduce, be it sugar, be it white rice, be it maida, or even dairy products. So one can eat them moderately and not too much in the diet. That would help. And of course, I always say this, but I love it because I think that's so important, that one must practice gratitude. We have so many things to be grateful for in life, and we just forget when we are busy that there's so many haves in our life. So make it a practice, be it through journal writing, or just saying it aloud to yourself, or just expressing it with your loved ones, how grateful you are for them to be a part of their life, of your life. And then also self-compassion, as we discussed earlier, love and compassion for others, and social connections. Relationships play a major role in how we feel if they're not doing well. Similarly, toxic relationships also harm us. So creating more healthier relationship within the family, outside, workplace, and and forgiveness. We need to learn to practice forgiveness as well, because forgiveness, guilt, fear are not good for us, and that really doesn't help us in the long run. And I'm really looking forward to our session today, because we're going to talk a lot about the spiritual connection, the purpose, and this whole
Ah, no, and that takes us to the
body.
next
Next
part also,
session,
which is
yeah.
the
So I'm looking
body.
forward. I'm looking forward to the next session, because we have Dr. Monica here. So I've spoken a little bit about the mind and the connection and the holistic health, but we need to know a lot. We have a lot of questions on the body. So welcome, Dr. Monica Mahajan. Uh, Dr. Monica Mahajan is the Director, Internal Medicine and Medical Director, Max Hospitals, Panscheel and Lajpat Nagar. She's in charge of DNB teaching program and member Hospital Scientific Committee. Dr. Monica has written 2 books, Systemic Fungal Infections, published, and also The Fearless Traveler. That's a very interesting book. And she's a recipient of numerous awards, including the Sushruta Award for Academics and Seva Bhav Award for Mid-Air Rescue of Critical Patient. She's the physician for embassies, US, France, and UN. Monica is a familiar face for all major news channels, and she loves mountaineering and photography. Amazing, Dr. Monica.
I
Welcome,
know.
welcome to this forum. And Sukriti, please take.
Yeah, no, I'm always, and first of all, you look stunning. And she says, I don't always look like this because it must be a pleasure not to have to wear all of that gear. But I know we still have to be safe. But Dr. Mahajan, I always worry about it. This is my personal question. And I think with COVID, we have become so used to getting so much information, and there's so much different information, but we still want the quick fix. How do we get out of that mindset, or where do we go? Because, we hear one thing from one doctor, one thing from another, and I even felt that throughout this time, I was very confused.
So let's just see what the situation for COVID at the moment is. And thank you so much for having me on this platform today. I'm going to spend the minimum amount of time on COVID. I've spent 2 years talking about
We
COVID.
want to forget
I'm
it.
not talking about COVID today. Believe me that I've had enough of COVID.
We want to
People
forget
getting at it, so I'm going to just shove it under the carpet. But at the moment, the only thing I want to say about COVID is going to remain throughout our lives. It's going to be like a background virus. So please go and get your vaccinations done. COVID is not going to stop happening. It is going to happen, but the only thing that is going to save lives is vaccination. So go ahead and get vaccinated.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And that was my question, because I just read today there's a new Omicron variant, and I was like, oh no.
So Dr. Monica, are you going to share a few tips with us, or how to lead a healthy life, and what women can do to maintain health?
Okay, so Ashima, let me put it this way, that the theme for this year's Women's Day is in terms of breaking the bias. Okay, and what is in terms of the gender biases, let me start by sharing a story that there's a very interesting study which was done where men and women with similar chest pain related symptoms reported to the emergency at a hospital in US. And what they found was that in men, every time that they went with chest pain, the physician in the ER would order the ECG, do the cardiac test, look for a heart attack related symptoms. Whereas every time that a woman would go with the same set of symptoms that she had been trained to go and utter and say that I have chest pain, they would say, oh, anxiety neurosis. This woman is anxious, she's depressed, that is why she's coming. So gender bias is so much there around us that we need to be breaking that bias. And I would say that women are themselves responsible for that bias. It's not that men are responsible for that bias, but we've taken a backseat as far as our health is concerned, whether it was during COVID or whether it is otherwise. We would look after the nutrition of the entire family, but when it comes to a woman's own health, she will end up eating whatever is left on the table. If you look at any typical gym, you would find that if there are 100 members in a gym, you would hardly find 3 women, 97 would be men. Whereas don't women need exercise? Don't women suffer from heart disease, or don't women suffer from stroke? I would say that we have bigger health challenges compared to men have, because we not only have the same health diseases that men suffer from, but in addition, we have gynecological disorders. Men never bear a baby and don't get pregnant. Women have pregnancy related disorders. Women have much more chances of anemia and so on and so forth. Women compromise with their health, especially when they're working women. So it is that if we don't assert our rights and we don't talk about women's health, then I think we are partners in the crime as far as that gender bias is concerned. And that is what we are talking about. So starting on a little lighter note, last year was the first time in India that the women to men ratio changed. So we had 1,020 women to 1,000 men, which is really great news. And today I was joking with my colleagues to say that next year, perhaps 8th of March will be World Men's Day, because if we going to that ratio,
That would be awesome.
why should it be that out of 365 days, you have one Women's Day? It should be either that we should be 50-50% in terms of half the year as Women's Day and half the year as Men's Day. Or if the ratio keeps changing the way it is changing, I think by next year we should start thinking of a World Men's Day rather than a World's Women's Day, and talk about
I
women's
love
day
it. I
one
love
day
it.
of the year. I
Because
really
they
don't want
do
to.
feel left out. We should give them a day to celebrate. Because, like I told you before this, I was feeling like today is actually like a Diwali or a Holi. So many messages, so much positivity, so much radiance. I think they need a day too.
Yeah, so I think we should forget the idea of a gentleman holding the door open for us. We should start looking at equality, and not just looking at equality. We need to move forward compared to the men and leave them behind, perhaps. Thankfully, my husband is not logged on to the show, but let's keep it that way, that in the sense that we're talking of positive attitude towards health, not just on the 8th of March every year, but throughout the year that we're talking of. Okay.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think that's so right and so beautifully put, Dr. Monica, because
Okay, so Ashima, I'm going to just take 5 minutes of your time in terms of sharing something that I thought I will put together in terms of talking about women's health, just to kickstart this whole process. So I'm not really going to spend a lot of time on it, but there are random thoughts that came to my mind as far as women's health is concerned, and you can stop me in between anywhere that you want, and we can talk about that issue. But these are just stray thoughts that I experience in terms of dealing with men and women in the hospital every day. And that's what I was talking about, that a woman is half the time thought to be neurotic when she goes to the hospital. इसकी सास से लड़ाई होगी, इसके बच्चों का stress है, इसलिए ये ऐसे behave कर रही है. So half the symptoms in a woman are written off as anxiety neurosis, which is actually not true. Women have a lot of health issues, and that is what we need to be looking at. So I was asked to give 5 tips. So I'm trying to summarize the whole life of a woman in 5 sentences. That's what I'm trying to do today.
Sorry, you can please give us more than 5 tips.
No. I will not eat on the other speaker's time. So I will just restrict to 5 today, and we can do the rest some other time. So, okay, ladies, first thing first, don't blame your children if they're eating junk food. Believe me, you are equally culprit when you allow them to eat junk food. And mothers will always look at the daughter's plate. The daughters are equally watching what the mother is eating. Okay, so what you eat and what you cook in the kitchen, you are responsible for what is happening to your children. So don't blame it on the generation gap and say that the younger children are consuming a lot of saturated fats and junk food. It is we who are responsible in terms of disciplining them and in terms of giving them that liberty of buying them a burger or a McDonald's Happy Meal. They don't go as a 4-year-old to buy it on their own. It is what we are inculcating in them that is responsible for that. So the choice as to what you put into your tiffin for the child is yours. It's not that the child is demanding what is to be put in there. And that brings us to a very, very big issue in children, especially now in India, that the amount of obesity related illnesses that are increasing in children in India has grown so tremendously that I think as women, as mothers, we are solely responsible for what is happening to our children. And what is happening is that we are finding school children are having high blood pressure problems. School children are having obesity related problems. And then in girls especially, there is a condition which is called as polycystic ovaries. When our mothers or grandmothers were serving food to us, we never heard of these terms. So why is it that every third girl that we see is now suffering from polycystic ovaries or is suffering from PCOS, as they call it, is because we are responsible for what was served on their plates.
Please repeat that statistic, because I'm shocked. So 1 in 3 girls.
Exactly. That is what is happening. And that is because of the kind of starches that they are consuming as part of their diet, the kind of saturated fats that they're consuming as part of their diet. And secondly, in terms of they are hooked on to their video games and to the TV sets, and how many of them actually go out and play cricket, or how many of them actually go and cycle outside. I mean, we grew up doing all sorts of outdoor activities and games, whether it was in terms of cricket or gilli danda or kite flying or just a simple cycling with our friends. But do our children actually step out of the house and do that? It's not that they don't want to do it. They have never been introduced to those pleasures of playing outside with their friends in the outdoors. There are no dearth of parks. There is no dearth of open spaces. So don't give me that idea that they can be hit by a car when they're riding a cycle. There is enough outdoor activities which can still be done, but we just don't encourage it.
And especially because of COVID, we've also become like everything was inside. So there is this also getting them used to outside, because I know that even for my children, they're very young. We had to take them either to the roof or whatever. But now they're saying, okay, getting used to parks and stuff is something new for them also.
So you're right, Monica. In the last, I think, a decade, to be very specific, I think children have become very sedentary, because I wouldn't blame them sometimes. Of course, we are responsible as mothers to inculcate good habits. But the pressure of the education system, the way they study, all the time they're sitting in front, and there's so much to. So, but just taking out half an hour. Like I tell a lot of my patients that even if you have exams, just go out in the fresh air, do anything, just go and play if you like, some sport or just walk. I think that habit has to come regularly. And I think who better than the mothers just giving it to the young kids, that it's so important, that physical activity bit is so important, whether we are doing it at home or outside.
So
And now,
medically recommended is 150 minutes of exercise in a week of a moderate pace activity. So whether it is in terms of cycling or swimming or walking or anything moderate paced, 150 minutes in a week is not a big amount of time to spare for yourself, whether it is the mother or whether it is the daughter. And at the moment, in the last 2 years, all the children have been online for school. So for them, even going to school is a challenge. So
challenge.
going to the park is going to be even a bigger challenge, but it is that we need to now start doing that. So it's not just in terms of sleep disorders, not just in terms of depression, but look at the body shaming in the sense that the amount of weight that the children have put on as part of the wrong eating. And now then they start feeling depressed in terms of looking at themselves in the mirror and in terms of looking at what is happening to their bodies. And in girls, this is a major challenge now because what is called as polycystic ovarian syndrome is not just responsible for the weight gain, for the acne on the skin, the extra hair growth on the face, and the irregular cycles. But in the long run, PCOS is one of the most important causes as far as infertility is concerned. So we are not just looking at a girl, but we are also looking at her future in terms of having a healthy pregnancy that we are talking of. And there are very, very simple solutions that are there. You need to just cut out on the white breads and the whites that Ashima talked about. All that you need to do is cut out on the sugary substances. So it's not a big deal. It's just incorporating those fruits into the diet, cutting out the maida and the starch in the diet, and making the child exercise. Zumba classes, dance classes, any sort of sports, they are most welcome to it. But the best treatment of PCOS or polycystic ovaries, believe me, is diet and exercise. So that's point number one as far as a girl child is concerned in today's context. I'm going on to the second point, and that's something which is very, very close to my heart because last 2 years we've been cooped up inside and we need to now restart traveling. Okay, we are scared of the COVID still around us, and there is a lot of myths and a lot of things. But believe me, a man was born to travel, a woman was born to travel. You can't be stuck in a place like a tree, and we need to get our traveling mode on and we need to start traveling again. So when women are traveling, their needs are kind of different from a woman of different age groups compared to a man's needs. And that's my second point that I'm trying to make, that you've been working from home, attending offices online, but now you will, as part of your work or as part of the social activities, you will need to travel. So a lot of people come to me and ask me as to what is the best time to travel and what precautions need to really be taken as far as a woman traveler is concerned. So first thing is in terms of carrying a first aid kit with you, not just in terms of the basic medicines, but in terms of things like a band-aid or in terms of an antiseptic solution or a little bit of, say, basic medicines. When you're traveling with the family, remember to pick a first aid kit. Your doctor can easily give you the general recommended medicines to carry along with you. A woman who's pregnant and requires to travel because of social requirements or because of, say, job requirements, often has a challenge as to when to travel during pregnancy. And the best time to travel is in the second trimester between the 14th and the 28th week, which actually makes logical sense because most airlines will not let you travel during the advanced stages of pregnancy because women have given birth in the in the flights as well. And during the first trimester, you are actually so sick with the morning sickness that you may not really enjoy the travel. So the second trimester is the best time as far as a pregnant woman traveler is concerned. And the chances of having a preterm labor during the flight are less, and you're less morning sick during the second trimester. At the same time, if there is a challenge in terms of driving to your office, what do you do? How do you wear a seat belt? That's again a very, very basic thing. So look at the third picture. You will see that the seat belt, you have to use. Seat belts save lives. So you can't say I'm pregnant and I'll not use a seat belt. Use a seat belt when you're traveling with the lower part of the belt below the baby, the lap belt below the baby, and the shoulder belt the regular way that it is worn. If you're traveling with a little baby, the challenges in terms of the landing and the takeoff. So during that time, the air pressure in the ears of the baby builds up, and you need some kind of either a sippy cup or a bottle or something which keeps the air pressure equalized in the baby. But if the baby is thankfully sleeping, please don't wake up the baby. Only if the baby is awake, remember to do that. A slightly older woman traveler, okay, there is a lot of issues in terms of whether it's a woman who's diabetic, is having Parkinson's, or even if a woman who has a leaky bladder and is embarrassed that in terms of if I travel, I may have my panties wet and I have a little bit of incontinence. So women need to be confident enough in terms of traveling as far as this is concerned. Simple Kegels exercises in terms of the bladder strengthening exercises help in terms of leaky bladders as far as those are concerned. You can use panty liners. You can wear a little dark colored trousers so that it doesn't show up if you have a little leaky bladder. If you are prone to DVT, there are certain risk factors in terms of getting a leg clot while you're traveling. Again, remember in the elderly, especially the obese people or who've had any kind of surgeries recently, you need to be walking up and down the aisle, or if you're traveling by car, stop the car on the curbside every 1 hour and get off the car and walk around a little bit and then come back and sit back in the car. So that's, again, a very handy travel tip from the health point of view. So
One good travel tip I heard that in these first aid kits, and this was a really good one, that they should keep tampons and sanitary napkins also.
exactly, that's a
So
real
make sure that you put that also in your.
absolutely, absolutely. And there are women who will wear contact lenses and forget to put the solution in the bag. So it's actually, you may be using a hearing aid and forget the cells at home, or you may be using contact lenses and you'll be forgetting the solution at home. So it's very important that you just keep that little first aid kit handy at home so that it's ready and packed. Whenever you're packing your bags, just remember to put that in. And that's the most important thing, and done and over with. And especially if you're sending your children to college or travel abroad for study purposes, you again need to give them medicines, because it's very difficult to get hold of any medicines abroad. Believe me, that it's a real challenge. As far as healthcare in India is concerned, we are blessed that it's so easy to get hold of things. It's very, very difficult when you're abroad. So that actually is in terms of the traveling woman. But then again, the challenge arises in terms of, as the woman grows older, she can have a fall while traveling, or she can even have a fall in her bathroom, and the fractures are very common in this age. So why is that so important in women compared to men? We lose a lot of calcium during pregnancy. We lose a lot of calcium during breastfeeding. And then generally, again, like Ashima said, our diet does not contain sufficient amount of calcium. So our bones are thinner, our bones are more brittle, and that is an entity which is called as osteoporosis. So as a woman attains menopause, the bones keep becoming more brittle because the hormones which were protecting us go down and the osteoporosis worsens. So you have these women who have a humpback kind of a stature, and if a woman is losing height, that means it's an early sign of osteoporosis. So that is so important. Again, coming back, everything comes back to what you're eating in terms of how much is your calcium intake in your diet. And again, if that calcium is there in the diet, it has to deposit on the bones. So how does that calcium deposit? It deposits when you exercise. It's in the blood, but it has to reach the bones. So the best way for the calcium to reach the bones is when you will exercise. Otherwise, the bones are going to be extremely fragile. Even putting your weight on the hand and trying to get up from a chair, you may end up having a fracture if the bones are that brittle. So minimum amount of trauma, maximum amount of fractures. That's the story of women because of the lack of proper dietary calcium intake and post-menopausal women becoming more and more osteoporotic.
I'm going to
So,
ask you a question. Can we just, oh, sorry, I think you might answer it. Can we just take a calcium tablet, or is it?
it's actually age dependent. So the requirement of calcium in a pregnant and lactating woman and a postmenopausal woman are high, somewhere around even up to 1500 milligrams a day. In the other women who are not pregnant, lactating, or are still having their periods, the requirement may be up to 1000 to 1200 milligrams a day. lot of women come to us to say that, okay, if I take a calcium, will I end up with kidney stones? So remember that doctors are never going to prescribe you that high a calcium, which is going to end up in kidney stones. We are only going to be giving you that much of a calcium supplementation, which is required to maintain your bone health. And if your diet is what you're looking at in terms of providing you the calcium that we need, we are predominantly a vegetarian nation. We are not consuming non-veg every day in terms of chicken and fish as dietary sources of calcium. And again, in terms of our dairy consumption, there is a lot of pros and cons of consuming a lot of dairy. So nobody consumes 6 to 8 glasses of milk in a day, which is what would be required to meet with the calcium demand. So the the result is that people who are non-vegetarian will slightly have a better calcium reserve in their body, but people who are predominantly vegetarian and again have very little of dairy consumption will be invariably deficient in calcium. And there's no harm in checking with your doctor in terms of your vitamin D levels and your calcium levels and supplementing it. Last 2 years, everybody is vitamin D deficient because vitamin D comes from sunlight falling on your skin, not through your clothes. And believe me, everyone's been indoors, or the people who've been outside have been covered from head to toe. So there has been practically no sunshine exposure in a land which is so abound with sunshine in our country, that if I was to check 100 women or even 100 men for that matter, 100% people would be deficient in vitamin D. We don't need to go overboard. We just need to supplement. There are other people who will overcorrect also, which is also wrong.
Yeah, Dr. Monica, that brings me to another very important question that I had in mind was, should women be taking supplements like on a regular basis? Because I find a lot of women just, they just buy it and they keep having it because their friends recommend it or somebody. They just keep having these multivitamins all along the year. I mean, as they grow up. Is it a
very, very important topic again, very important aspect of this. So vitamin B12 is only present in non-veg food. So people who are vegetarian should take vitamin B12 because B12 is the most important vitamin for the nerves in the body. So invariably, somebody who's vitamin B12 deficient will have a lot of tingling, numbness in the hands and feet. When they stand, they feel like swaying as if they're about to fall. There are memory related issues. There are a lot of mood swings that happen, brittle hair, skin pigmentation, mouth ulcers. So those are all vitamin B12. So people who are vegetarian, it makes sense to take B12 because the plants and the fruits don't synthesize B12. So B12 is invariably deficient in vegetarian people. B12 is a water soluble vitamin. So even if you take a little excess of it, the excess will wash out in the urine. So it never causes any kind of a toxicity. So there is no harm in taking a B12 supplement if you require it. If you are non-vegetarian to a certain extent, your requirement of supplemental B12 will be lesser compared to a vegetarian person. Having said that, vitamin D, on the other hand, is a fat soluble vitamin. Okay. So we only need a certain amount of vitamin D. If we take an excess amount of vitamin D, it causes toxicity and damage in the body, right from stone formation to a lot of fatigue to breathing difficulty, drowsiness. So we have had people where there was so much of an excess of vitamin D toxicity because what happened is they were not eating food, but they were remembering to eat a lot of calcium and vitamin D supplements. So we've had to actually hospitalize people with vitamin D toxicity because vitamin D is fat soluble. It deposits in the body. It does not wash out through the urine. So excess of vitamin D is bad. Vitamin B12 is still safe because even if it's excess, it washes out. It's only throwing your money down the drain if you're taking too much of B12 because it's not really going to.
But how do we know if we're getting sufficient vitamin D? Because like you said, everybody says everybody should be taking a vitamin D supplement.
There is no harm in checking your levels actually. And if there is a deficiency, then what the doctor does is they just correct that much of deficiency and then they put you on a maintenance dose. You can't be on a corrective dose throughout your life. The corrective dose is only to correct the deficiency bit. And then in terms of maybe a monthly supplement, as a maintenance dose is good enough. You can't be on a weekly vitamin D for years together because invariably then you're going to end up with a toxicity. So the levels are done, or even if the levels are not done, the doctor may just give you a corrective dose for 6 to 8 weeks and then tell you to go on to a maintenance dose and not continue on a corrective dose throughout, because too much of corrective dose will not just correct the deficiency, but it will overshoot the mark.
Thank you.
So I think smoking again is a big issue nowadays, and smoking is not just directly related to heart and stroke related problems, but smoking is also responsible for osteoporosis, caffeinated stuff, a lot of caffeine, whether it is in terms of coffees or whether it is in terms of colas, just eats on the bones. So that's again a message that I would want to communicate today, that caffeine and colas and smoking is directly injurious for your bones, not just in terms of cancer, like they put a tagline under the scenes in the pictures, but it is actually damaging also in terms of the bone health as far as women is concerned. Okay, this is my favorite picture. It's showing a woman with a broken heart. Okay, so so Ashima, going on to tip number 4. Some broken hearts you handle and some broken hearts I handle is how I would say. Okay, so it's a myth that men suffer from heart attack more than women do. Actually, women are as prone to heart problems as men are, and especially menopausal women are more prone to heart problems than men are, because the protective effect of the hormones is gone. And a lot of times we've realized that women just don't report to the hospital if they're feeling any sort of a chest discomfort. Men are more proactive in coming with angina symptoms. Women will just think, oh, acidity, oh, breast pain, oh, this, oh, that. So it's both at the level of the patient as well as at the level of the doctor that heart problems tend to get more neglected in women compared to men. But remember that men and women are equally prone as far as dying from heart attacks is concerned. And it is important that if there has been any sort of worsening breathlessness or any kind of chest pain, which is associated with palpitations, associated with the radiation to the left arm hurting at the same time, or any kind of fluttering of the heart, these are symptoms that you don't ignore. Please go to the doctor, get at least a basic ECG done and get your heart checked. Heart attacks do happen. It's a reality. It's something that we need to understand and we need to figure out. Again, interestingly, there is something which actually is called as a broken heart syndrome. And this is a very interesting entity in the sense that this is often mimicking a heart attack, but this is something which is brought on by a lot of stress. So extreme stress, extreme emotional breakdown causes the heart muscles to temporarily get stunned and stop working, and the heart functioning gets compromised. Woman goes to the hospital with what is called as a stress related cardiomyopathy or a stress related defect in the muscles of the heart. But the good part is that this is reversible. Unlike the heart muscles getting damaged in a heart attack or a myocardial infarction, the stress related cardiomyopathy, once you treat the woman's stress and you take care of her emotional breakdown, the heart functioning returns back to normal. So this is a well-known entity. It is called as a broken heart syndrome. But broken heart syndrome, we will label once we've ruled out that it's not actually a heart attack. Okay, so there are different ways of distinguishing between a heart attack versus a broken heart syndrome. A heart attack patient will need an angiography, a stent, or a bypass, or whatever. Whereas a broken heart syndrome, you just rest the patient, take care of the stress and the emotions, and the patient returns back to normal. So that's two entities that I wanted to talk about as far as the woman's heart and being heartbroken is concerned. Okay, this is something which again, so point number 1, if there are 100 people with breast cancer, 99 are women, 1 is a man. So men also do get breast cancer. Okay, so let me clarify that right at the beginning. It's not entirely a woman's disease. 1% of breast cancer is actually seen in men also. At the same time, it is something which we often tend to neglect. So we have certain risk factors which are there as far as breast cancer is concerned. And the most important is in terms of the family history of breast cancer. If your mother or your masi or your immediate first degree relative has had breast cancer, then your likelihood of having breast cancer is more. And the screening for the breast cancer should be started early. Again, there are certain things which are protective as far as breast cancer is concerned. So a woman who breastfeeds actually protects her breasts. Breastfeeding is good. Physically being active is good. Avoiding unnecessary radiation exposure, unnecessary X-rays and CT scans is good. At the same time, what is derogatory or what is going to make you more prone to breast cancer is in terms of obesity and smoking. Those are things which, along with alcohol, make a woman more prone to breast cancer. So
When should you get your screening done? Because there's a lot of questions on that. And when that, what is the recommended?
okay, so two parts in terms of the screening. One is in terms of a breast self-examination, which is your screening for yourself, which you have to do practically every month. And the timing of the breast self-examination should be around the 7th to 10th day from your periods. The day one of bleeding is called as the first day of the period. So the breasts tend to be a little painful and tender and heavy before your next period is about to start. So that's a bad timing to do a breast self-examination because the breasts are already heavy and engorged. Instead of that, the mid-cycle or around the 10th day of your period is a good time to do a breast self-examination. And just stand in front of the mirror before your bath, look at the breast, the shape, the symmetry, and then use your right hand for your left breast, your left hand for your right breast. Go around in circles, feel for any sort of a lump, and also go on into the armpit because a little bit of the breast tissue also extends into the armpit. So you do a breast self-examination, and that you can make a habit of doing a breast self-examination right from the age of 30 onwards, because we are finding a lot of younger women now getting breast cancer. So it's important that you are your own screening in terms of breast self-examination. As far as this is concerned, you're looking for any kind of a lump, you're looking at the symmetry of the nipples, see if they are pulled up or retracted in any way, or you're looking for any kind of discharge from the nipples. Now, the second part comes in terms of the mammography as far as screening for breast cancer is concerned. So, mammography in women who are otherwise healthy and who don't have any kind of
So yeah, I think Dr. Monica?
yeah, sorry. So women who don't have a family history of breast cancer and who are not finding any sort of a lump or a discharge can do their first mammography around the age of 45. Before that, the breasts are too dense and the radiation don't reach the back of the breast. So you may not really get much information from a mammography in younger women because of the dense breast. You may do an ultrasound for the breast. And in case there is a family history of breast cancer, you may actually start imaging the breast at even the age of 40 to be cognizant of looking at early picking up of the breast lumps. We don't advise mammography every year because that involves a lot of radiation exposure. Whereas if you do the ultrasound of the breast, that's radiation free. So ultrasound is a modality which can be repeated more frequently. Mammography, you would go by the doctor's decision in terms of doing it once in 2 years or once in 3 years. But breast self-examination, you will do every time that you need to, and at least 3 or 4 times in a year, make sure that you do a proper breast self-examination. And every time that you go to the gynecologist for whatsoever reason, ask her, please check my breasts. That's very important. She's more trained in terms of picking up lumps than you are.
Thank you, Dr. Monica. That was actually very, very helpful. And I think you're also reiterating what Dr. Shukla has said, that we have to also pay a lot of attention to our diet and also to our foods that we are eating. It's a very, very important part, and especially the part about exercise. Dr. Ashima, any closing thoughts that you have?
No, I think this is very helpful because we really need to now reconnect with ourselves as far as going for regular health checkups to find, because like I said earlier, we do tend to ignore all these things, and looking at not only the mental, the physical, and overall social, spiritual side of us will always not only enhance our life, the quality of life, is also make us happier beings. Because like you said earlier, I think it all starts with self, and mother, as a woman in the family, it's a huge role and a beautiful responsibility that we can, take charge of shaping the lives of our children and future generation, of inculcating good habits, eating habits, exercise, lifestyle, and that'll ensure good, healthy life. And yeah, I think that was a wonderful piece of knowledge that you shared here, Dr. Monica.
Thank you so very much.
So much.
Thank you so much. That was awesome.
Thank
I
you,
have to
Dr.
get the
Elka.
B12, so that is what I was writing down. So I think a good reminder for all of us. So thank you so much. And
Thank
so
you for
now,
your valuable time. Yeah, thank you.
now we're going to move on to something that we also think about when we think about holistic health. A lot of people would not put purpose as part of it, but what we are finding more and more that you need to also have that spring in your life, something that gives you direction, something that says, okay, here is where I want to go next. So we've got Suzy Singh. I think a lot of you know her. She's an author of the international bestseller 7 Karma Codes and creator of the world's first Karma Wisdom Oracle in Italian, at #1 in cards and oracle charts. She's a mental health coach, a clinical hypnotherapist, a karma teacher, international wellness speaker, and advisor to the board at NGO We Listen. As a therapist and coach, Suzy has helped thousands across the globe. She writes extensively for several well-being publications and has been an active jury member on the Business World 40 Under 40 Wellbeing and Healthcare Awards. And she is the founder of Grief Circle, a humanitarian service that offers support and healing to grief-stricken individuals, and a YouTube mentor to the youth. She can be reached as suzyhealsme@gmail.com. I'm also going to put that in the chat, so for all of you. And I know Dr. Ashima, she's also in the mental health field, so she wanted to, I would have asked her to kick this off.
Thank you so much, Sukirti, and a warm welcome to you, Suzy Singh. And I think we're really looking forward, Namaskar, and we're looking forward to hear a lot about you, because in life, I think we talk a lot about purpose and meaning and finding it. And most of the times we really don't know what it actually means and how do we reach there. So I would like to first start with you. What is your purpose and when did you find it? And you started this journey that you have reached so far.
So thank you for having me here and for asking that question. And I think a lot of people think that purpose is a fixed goalpost. But what's more important is that purpose is ever transforming, ever expanding, ever changing, ever evolving. And we have to see wherever we are in our lives what the purpose is. For example, about 2 decades back, when I was in a car crash with a near-death experience and I survived that, I realized that my purpose was to embrace life on this planet very deeply, to work through my own PTSD, and then to be able to help others who were going through traumas and to overcome their PTSD. If you ask me where I am today, coming on the outside of the COVID pandemic, today it is for me, the purpose is setting up grief circles across the world. And I founded the grief circle during the pandemic because I found so many individuals were grieving in isolation in their locked homes, and we needed to bring the community and the village to them. But if you ask me in a singular way what my purpose was, my purpose is to be able to firstly work with my own consciousness, weed it, and through the expanded light that enters me, to gift it back to the world at large.
Thank you so much. That is a very nice explanation. And I know you're going to take us through quite a bit of how do we think about purpose. So I hand it over to you because we're looking forward to that. Would love to also hear the thoughts of the attendees in terms of what do they think about purpose? Do they think it's important? And because in this session, we have actually even put it part of having a healthy life. Go ahead, Suzy.
So, Suki, thank you for that. The greatest misunderstanding, I want to start with that. A lot of people have this myth about purpose, that it has to be something really significant or extraordinary. And that is the reason that people can't see purpose even when it's staring them in the face. But I want to help people understand that purpose is not something profound, something that'll win you a lot of accolades or fame or any such thing. The true essence of purpose is fourfold. Any goal that fulfills you, that awakens enthusiasm, joy, and inspiration. Secondly, something that gives meaning to your life and makes you feel worthy. Third, it connects you to something larger than yourself. And the fourth, it expands your consciousness, and so it helps you grow and evolve. The key thing is that purpose should not be pursued with the intention of any personal aggrandizement or for impressing others. You know, a lot of things that we do in our lives is all about earning fame, being recognized, money, name, fame, visibility, popularity, building networks, getting invited to all the big social events or parties. That's not purpose. We pursue purpose to be at peace. That's the important thing. And why do we need to have purpose at all? Because it adds meaning to our lives. Scientific evidence has proved that people who lead purposeful lives, they enjoy better physical and emotional health, they live longer, have greater resilience, and are better equipped to deal with adverse life situations. And to make this easy for everyone, because I said, I have so many people who will come and ask me one singular thing, which is, I really want to have purpose in my life, but I don't know how to find it. And so I thought that's what I will focus our discussions today about. And I have devised specially for this session an acronym that anyone who listens to us today can use to do a litmus test to identify their purpose. And the word is Sattvic, which also means pure. And therefore, Sattvic purpose, coming out of my own purity of essence that adds purity of meaning to my life, and that I do for the purity and peace of my soul. So what is the S in the Sattvic? Small things that have a big impact on your life. And what are these small things? Living in awareness and being mindful can also be part of your purpose. Am I aware of every thought that goes through my head? Am I aware of every feeling that I'm having? If I can just make this part of my purpose, every day I am going to be more Sakshi Bhav, in the witnessing mode, to understand my own feelings, because that allows me to have a better relationship with myself, a greater understanding of who I am, and that translates into having greater empathy for others. So for example, do I know at this point in time what's troubling me? How can I let go of that worry? What is stopping me from asking for help? What impact am I having on other people? For example, if I'm really stressed, what impact am I having on my children, on my staff at home? Why did I get edgy and short with my maid today? Do I really know those reasons? And do I really want to hurt them? And if not, then how do I address my own hidden stresses? The second small thing we can do is gratitude, because it helps heal your destructive emotions. It recenters you and makes your ecosystems happier. And if there is a dysfunctional environment that you're existing in, it can make it more bearable for you. So when bad things happen to you, shifting your attention to gratitude can make things easier. So let's say you're going through an experience where something terrible has happened. Just telling yourself, I know this experience is so wrong or so terrible or so horrible, but I'm still so grateful that that other thing in my life is going fine. And that rebalances your stress. And the third small thing you could make your purpose is, okay, I'm going to start appreciating people more. You know, very often we may see someone or like something more than another person, and in our heads we are saying, oh my God, I love that orange color Suki is wearing today, but I don't call it out and I don't compliment that person. But the minute we start seeing good in others, we are overcoming the natural negativity bias that our brains have. We are learning to see good in other people. This reduces our negativity bias and it increases compassion, improves relationships. And of course, the natural payoff is it helps me be more compassionate to myself. I can see the goodness in me better. And that's one issue a lot of women have. They devalue themselves and they're always running themselves down. So it'll help you build a better relationship with yourself. So these are three small things examples I've given of how small things can have a big impact in your life if they become your purpose. Live in awareness, promote gratitude, appreciate others. The second A in the Sattvic is activism, which is, what are the things, ask yourself, what are the things I feel really strongly about in my life? And, you know, if let's say you're a homemaker and you say, oh, there's nothing really happening in my life, I'm saying, okay, are you very pro decluttering? Maybe you can start a blog on decluttering so you can inspire other women to have neater homes. There are women who got green fingers and they're very good at gardening. And so many people struggle with thoughts about, if I have a plant that I put indoors, how do I water it, etc. And you could have some work that you're doing with gardening and bringing that to the world. Or you could be maybe reviving family recipes and doing the family cookbook that your all generations or your own relatives can have, because you really searched for so-and-so aunt's recipe or grandma's recipe or whatever else. So just whatever you feel strongly about, can you invest your efforts there and make that part of your purpose? Another option could be maybe translating a sacred text and contemporizing it for your children. So little kids are not going to find, they don't want to read the Gita, but then those moral values, if you want to translate them to your kids, you might think of, say, okay, what if I just create a little cartoon book and create some sort of a cartoon figure that children can relate to? And you may start it as a gift to your own kids. And thereon, it could become something bigger if it does. Or you might say, okay, I want to gather the history of my family tree. Who are my ancestors? Leave that for my children so they understand what their roots are. Who was their great-grandfather? What did he do? What were the big achievements they made in their lives? That becomes a sense of purpose, because here's a family book. And you know more about what genetic material and trauma am I carrying, because transgenerational baggage, or what is called the epigene, can be healed if we have knowledge about, okay, did my grandmother or great-grandmother have a certain issue? Or did she go through a very traumatic experience during the partition in the country? So that is a second way of looking at your purpose, which is activism, things I feel strongly enough, and I've given you a few examples there. The third aspect is transforming pain. We've all been through some personal tragedies, and usually we become very wounded with that, and we become resentful about that. And I'm saying, how about you take the energy of your personal tragedy and you use it to inspire others, heal yourself, inspire others. So there's this person, for example, I was speaking to the other day, who's overcome addiction. He's come back to the country and he's now setting up Nibbana.com, and it is like an online de-addiction center. There's another lady in my grief circle who lost her partner very recently, and she's now set up a support group for other people who have lost their partners. It's called Connect, and they meet every frequently, I think every alternate week, to come together and to support each other. Or they could be a suicide helpline that you can set up if you think that you want to bring that help to the youth. So these are just examples, and all of these are coming from real situations and real stories that I've been meeting and interacting with, and seeing how people are using their pain to make it their life purpose.
Suzy, I think at this point I have, because I am into this line where I'm meeting a lot of people in sessions where they have emotional issues and mental health issues. How do you motivate a person who, to have a purpose? Because we all know we should have a purpose. We all know we should have a meaning. There's a meaning and purpose in our life. How do you motivate a person who's already feeling so low, who's already, things are not happening well in their lives? There could be the medical reason also, a clinical factor contributing for them not feeling too good. How do you explain, or how do you talk about having a purpose in life?
I don't think you can find purpose without healing yourself. You have to walk through the dark journey, and when you come out on the other side of having healed yourself, you've made that journey from deep depression, deep trouble, deep suffering, to feeling better, that's when purpose starts awakening in you. So I don't think purpose can be hastened. I don't think purpose can be imposed at a time, because if you have nothing to fill yourself with, how will you give it to others if you're empty inside? So first you have to heal yourself, and which is why it is a journey. I don't think you can motivate people to purpose. You have to help them find their purpose in pain. Does that answer your question, Dr. Ashima?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for the answer. I think because we all know that when we talk about purpose, when we talk about meaning in life, these are very profound things, actually speaking. Because for each one of us, I think finding a purpose or a goal or even meaning of what's happening in our life is very, very different. And having said that, I think if one can be motivated, or one can be at least be made aware that one needs to have a purpose that makes them their life more positive and happier, is great. So thank you so much for your answer.
One thing I'd like to say, stemming from what you just mentioned, purpose is the fruit of the tree of suffering. It is the fruit, and that metaphor explains it. तो जब तक वो पेड़ उगेगा नहीं, उसकी branches नहीं निकलेंगी और उसकी roots नहीं जमेंगी, और जब तक वो दूसरों को छाया नहीं देगा, उसका फल नहीं उगेगा, तब तक we cannot force the fruit. It has to go through its journey. So we've talked about S-A-T, and now we come to the V of Sattvic, which is volunteering, which is offering your time, skills, and expertise. So you can think about, okay, if I can't think of any other example or that inspires me or any other idea, then how about I volunteer my time or skills? Altruism truly fulfills you. So maybe you'd like to join a Rotary Club, or use your contribution there to have influence with a lot of other people. Or very recently, there was an example that was going viral on LinkedIn, which was about an elderly lady who had lost her husband in COVID. And when she came back from the hospital, because she was down with it too, she started making pickles and selling it so that she could gather money for COVID patients. Now, that is a clear example of very profound volunteering, coming out of your own pain and then giving back to society. Other causes could include maybe you can offer your time for elder care, founding the grief circles like I did. And now I'm training women to become grief doulas so that we can facilitate circles across the world, and more people can have someone to reach out to, and nobody who's grieving is ever alone. Or you could join an NGO if you are not sure about what you want to do, and discover your own passions there, and then start setting up something else. The Sattvic, so we are at the I, and this is about inspiring others with your knowledge and victories. Now, even if you're not doing anything else, how about you start answering questions on Quora? It's a very good platform. I'm sure all of us on this panel have at one point or another gone to Quora to check for some information. And, it has very good filters. So only good and right knowledge is published there. And, we have our own experiences and rich experiences that we can use to suggest to other people solutions to the problems they have. We can write books, we can make blogs, we can shoot videos. Everything has become so easy after this COVID pandemic and the advent of various platforms with technology. And I'm saying, if nothing else, become the listener. The greatest need of the hour today is that people don't have anyone they can go to with a problem. They feel they're not seen and heard. And I'm saying we can just have groups of women who can become good listeners, someone I can call when I'm feeling really low, with the understanding that without any judgment, they will hear me and they will bring peace to my heart. Even that is a very worthy purpose. And finally, we have C in the Sattvic, which is join or set up a community that you can belong to or contribute to. So there are some friends of mine who have set up spiritual groups and they meet regularly. They do blogs, they invite spiritual people, they share ideas, they pray together, they chant together, if that's what calls you. And that's, you can almost call it like an online satsang. Or if you're passionate about weight loss and exercise and nutrition, you could set up a group like that where people who are going through the same journey and struggle can share their ideas, can contribute. Somebody may have a new dish that they worked with that is helping them, new recipes, so many things there. Book Readers Club, or again, something that has been a revival project, crochet and knitting, which brings you so much peace. It allows women to pause, to slow down. It's something our grandmothers used extensively. And it's a great mindfulness exercise. I mean, I know a lot of people say coloring mandalas today, but I'm saying just go back to knitting. It's so beautiful. So these are the various ways. Just sit with these ideas and see what calls out to you, what do you feel inspired about, what can make you feel that this will connect me to others, this will make me contribute, this will add meaning to my life, and voila, you have purpose. And it, like I said, it doesn't have to be one thing. If you start, let's say, setting up a crochet group, it doesn't mean you're going to do this for the rest of your life. That may evolve into something else and something else. You might meet somewhere in the crochet group who might have a common idea with you, and tomorrow you could be setting up another project with her. But you can see how it's all about unison. It's about becoming one. It's about going beyond yourself, your concerns, your issues, connecting with something larger than yourself, which is the collective force and the creative force. And together, that leads to purpose. So that's all I had to say. Suzy, and I'm happy to take any other questions that anyone might have.
I think it's very beautifully said, because what you've done is actually, I like the Sattvic thing, because you've made us think about how. And that is one of the things I think most people struggle with. We all know and we've heard the big words, but now how do we find that path? And you've kind of simplified it. And I think the other question, people also worry about that, okay, if I set that purpose, is that my purpose for life? And I really like that clarification that no, your purpose also evolves as you evolve. Ashima?
Yeah, no, thank you. I think this, the whole idea, the concept, like you said, Sukriti, is very important, that we always associate purpose with a very spiritual profoundness to it. But I think purpose is in the little things that we do. And last 2 years has taught us that, we have, when I said it has ushered the inward journey, we have really recognized these beautiful aspects to life where you cannot go out, you cannot travel, you cannot do a lot of things outside, be it with children, be it with the family members. We have rediscovered ourselves and done some beautiful things, be it painting, gardening, became connecting with nature, even within a in a confined space, if I would say that, in an apartment. People have reached out. So many groups formed just for chanting, meditation, and all these became a part of the life that we all are living now. And I guess those are beautiful purposes that every day we pick up and we continue doing it. So thank you so much, Suzy. I think I'm sure all of us have.
And Suzy, before you leave us, please do tell us your LinkedIn and your website, because there is a request for that. I put your URL out.
I'm going to give you first a list of free resources for everybody, because that was part of my purpose during the first leg of the pandemic, where I started setting up a YouTube channel with videos on various topics that people were reaching out for me. My YouTube channel is called Suzy Singh, and I can, Sukriti, send you later my link if required. It has about 100 videos on all topics relating to self-love, to women, to emotional distress, to processing emotions. And that, incidentally, is one of the biggest challenges women face, which is they tend to repress their emotions a lot. Just this morning, I was talking to a lady in McLeodganj, and she's set up a little shop and she's trying to find herself, and she was just minimizing all her problems. She had severe problems. She said, "Par aisa to har aurat ke saath hota hai." And I said, don't do that to yourself. You know, when we normalize suffering, that is a problem with women because we don't attend to ourselves then. And like I said, khali ghagar hogi to wo usme se kya niklega? When you squeeze it, wish niklega. If you're very miserable with your life and life circumstances come and squeeze you, what's going to come up? Reactions, unhappiness, resentment, upset, anger, and then finally depression. But if you're fulfilled as a woman, you have purpose, you're doing something that puts you into the creative flow, you're enjoying your life. When challenges arise, then you are going to be compassionate towards others, be a little more understanding. Okay, maybe they're having a bad day, be more understanding towards yourself, not judge and blame yourself. And that is what I mentioned at the start of my talk, which is research has proved that people who have purpose are more resilient, that they bounce back from the laws of life much faster and much quicker. So it's very, very important that we embrace something that puts us into our creative flow of life.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I'm just going to also say there is, my website is called Suzy Heals Me. My LinkedIn is Suzy Singh, and my Instagram handle is Suzy Heals. I am sharing constantly a lot of free information on all of these platforms, hoping that it will reach someone who needs to hear that thing that day.
Thank you, Suzy. That was excellent. Really loved your thoughts. And I really like the fact that you talked about that we need to become better listeners. Because I think one thing that COVID has really shown us is that there are so many people that just need somebody actually to talk to. Something so simple, but we don't put so much importance on it. I think a good reminder for all of us.
Thank you, Suki, for having me here. Thank you, Dr. Ashima. It was absolutely wonderful talking to you all. And I hope our listeners are going to be inspired today to sit down with the Sattvic formula and say, okay, this is the one that I want to include in my life now.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So I think I can see her Grace Radharani ji here, and let me welcome her. Welcome, Radharani ji, and such a pleasure to have you on this forum. You're on mute, I think.
Thank you so much. I'm honored to be here. Really grateful to Prana and business world to have this platform. I've just been listening to Suzy also, and it was such a pleasure to hear her too. And thank you for inviting me on this platform.
So I would like to introduce RadhaRani ji, and for our viewers here, RadhaRaniPriya has been staying in Mumbai for past 23 years and was brought up in Delhi and has stayed abroad for 6 years before she came to Mumbai. And a family from her parents' side, including her parents, stay in Toronto, which is virtually her second home. Born in a good family, her schooling was in one of the top schools in Delhi, and her interest in dance was from a very early age, and when she continued for almost 15 years, giving performances in India and in foreign countries. Most importantly, RadhaRaniPriya ji, for past 2 decades, has been spiritually very seriously in her life and practicing. She's taken it up and practicing Vaishnav traditions and discussing and propagating this rich culture and tradition in various forums and gatherings. She has well-studied books like Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and to understand the deep meanings of God's instructions and how well we can practically imbibe it in our everyday life. She has been actively doing voluntary service by serving poor villagers in medical camps, serving terminally ill patients in hospitals, working towards a project for women empowerment. She's married to a chartered accountant and investment banker and is blessed with 2 daughters and 3 granddaughters. How beautiful. Welcome, welcome, RadhaPriya ji. And I think we're going to have now, we're coming to a part where we were talking about holistic health. We spoke about mind and body and purpose. And I think the most important aspect now is spirituality, or the purpose and the soul of that binds all this. So Sukriti, I think why don't you go ahead and ask the first
Yes,
question?
welcome, Radharani ji. A pleasure to have you here. So we all talk about the soul. It's the most important because that's where the energy in us resides, to really function in our life. But in this rat race and the time pressures, we tend to neglect it. Now, can you focus on why it is important for us to focus as much on the soul as the body? And I think this question, what is the soul, is always very confusing for us.
Yeah, so there are multiple aspects of the soul, and we can understand it at multiple levels. But first and foremost, like you were saying, how important is the understanding of the soul? It's like we are sitting in a car, and there are four wheels to it. So there is emotional, there is mental, there is physical, and there is spiritual. So to understand ourselves from all aspects, it's very important that we understand who we actually are. So till the time we do not understand who we are, we will remain confused, and we will actually, will not be able to understand why I'm doing what I'm doing, why have I come into this world. There will be a jigsaw puzzle which will be, right in front of us, and we will not be able to do. So the soul, as you said, is the sitting place of energy or consciousness. So as soon as you see the person who is, as we say, died, although according to the Bhagavad Gita, there's no such thing as death except to the body. When the consciousness or the soul leaves the body, that's the time when the body is lifeless. So the soul is like in Bhagavad Gita, in fact, in these times, it's a very appropriate time to understand that how the soul cannot be killed. And Krishna says there was never a time when he was not there or I was not there in the Bhagavad Gita. So we are always there. We are eternally present. So the only confusion arises is that who are we? Then what is this, what we are experiencing? So what happens is there is a very nice story I have,
Please do share.
to share. Maybe it'll answer a lot of questions, so this is a story. It's a real story, happened maybe a decade or two earlier with a spiritual teacher and an author also of wonderful books like Journey Home and Journey Within. His name is His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj. And so he was sitting at the airport going towards Washington, D.C. And since he's a sadhu, most of the people, send him tickets, and then accordingly he goes. So apparently this time the ticket which was sent to him was, not one of those very good flights. And so he was sitting at the airport, and all of a sudden it was announced that the flight will be delayed for a couple of hours. So there was this lady on a wheelchair who went up to the staff and said, the airline staff, and said, "What is this? Why are you delaying it?" This is, "Ma'am, it's just a couple of hours, and we will be soon. We'll be soon taking you in." So she seemed a little disturbed, and then she again, in her wheelchair, she went back. And then after a little while only, they said it's indefinitely been delayed.
So cancelled.
So it wasn't cancelled, but they didn't know when it's going to go.
Okay.
So they said, "What happened?" So she went and asked. So they said the AC in the flight is not working, and if anybody, you all will be claustrophobic if you sit in the plane. She was absolutely furious. She was creating a ruckus out there. And His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj was somewhere on the side and peacefully, he was sitting over there and not wanting to, he also knew he was getting late. And this lady, all of a sudden, was creating a ruckus over there, looked around everywhere and then came up to him and said, "You're a monk?" So sometimes this question is a little, we don't know what is going to be there next. And he could make out that there's a lot of, like we were talking about depression and everything. You could see there's so much more to it. So she said, he said, "Yeah, kind of." And he said, she said, "I want to ask you this question. Why is it happening to me?" Like so many of us go through these phases, these times in our life, and we ask this question, why is it happening to me? So he said, "Why don't you sit down and tell me about yourself?" So she said, "I belong to a very, very upper middle class family. Till a few months back, I had my husband, my children. I was living a very happy life. And just a few months back, I lost all of them." So Maharaj was, His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj was really, he was empathized with her. She said, "It doesn't end over there." He said, "A month after that, my own relatives cheated me and took away whatever wealth I had left with me. I was left with nothing." So that was, she said, she looked at him and she said, "It doesn't end over there." So he looked at her. She said, "A month, maybe 15 days back, I was detected with cancer." She said, "I was detected with cancer and they said you have 1 month to live since you don't even have money to treat yourself. And we don't think even if you had the money, we could have treated you." She was miserable. And then from somewhere she came to know that, in Mexico, there is a place whom she got in touch with and they said, "Yeah, we can help you." He said, "But for next 6 months, we don't have any place for you." She said, "I'll be dead by that time. So there is no use of you." So then just a couple of days back, they called her up and they said, "Okay, there is an opening, but you have to reach by tonight. If you do not reach, then the place will be gone and we will not be able to take you in." She said, "And this flight is delayed indefinitely. I don't know when I'm going to go. And if I don't reach by tonight, because I have a connecting flight from Washington, D.C. to Mexico, if I don't reach on time, I will not be able to treat myself and I'll be gone." So she said, "Why is it happening to me?" He said, "We have to start, the process, this whole process from the beginning." And plus she could see how compassionate he was. So she said, "I can see that you are, you're feeling bad for me." She says, because she hadn't seen that reciprocation from anyone. People have cheated her. She had lost so much. And now when she even fell unwell, people were treating her like an object, who can be fixed or not fixed. So she said, said, "Yeah, I do." So he asked her a question. He said, "Let's begin from the start. Who are you?" The question which he asked her was, "Who are you?" She said, maybe I didn't mention, her name was Dorothy. So she said, "I've already told you my name is Dorothy. It's not your name. Who are you?" So then she started, he said, "When you take birth, you're a baby. When you grow up a little, you're called a woman, you're a sister, you're a wife. As you grow and you have different additions happening or sometimes certain subtractions also, but now nobody is going to call you a baby." So many changes in our identity take place. So what is our permanent identity? even these days, which religion you belong to, which sex you belong to, even that changes these days. People can change. I know somebody, and the person is so happy in the when he has altered his gender. So these days everything is changing. So who are you? And then she just kept looking at him. She said, help me out. He said, do you think you're this body? So which part of the body are you? Are you the eyes? Are you the nose? You're the hands, the legs? Which part are you? Or do you breathe through your nose and see through your eyes and smell through your nose and eat through your tongue? She just looked at him and she said, oh, you mean that I'm somebody who's living in the body and not the body? This seems like that. He said, yes. Somebody, called the soul, which is always, the nature of the soul is, it is full of knowledge, eternal and full of bliss. So she said, bliss, pleasure. So pleasure, she says, what kind of pleasure? So then he quoted, at that time, if we know some little bit about Mother Teresa, she had said, this world is suffering with hunger. What kind of hunger? Not hunger of the stomach, but hunger of the heart. So hunger of heart we are talking about. And then the conversation, she kind of understood about herself, she being the soul, which is eternal, full of knowledge and full of bliss. And wanting, that's why we are constantly looking for happiness, which sometimes we being eternal, anything which is temporary, we are not able to, connect to that because they are opposites. They can never meet. The living and the non-living. So the living cannot experience that much pleasure with anything which is not living. So we have to understand we are living, we are sitting in a car where the car has to be nourished with a certain kind of a meal. The mind has to be nourished with another kind of a meal. The emotional aspect of ours has to be nourished with another kind of a meal. And the soul has to be nourished with another kind of a meal. So there are 4 wheels to this body which is there, and there is a person sitting inside. So we have to put the gasoline, and plus we have to feed we cannot put gasoline inside, a person's stomach. He won't be able to. He'll die maybe in a few minutes only. So she said she was having a lot of confusion in her heart because this is something which she had heard for the first time. So she was she asked him, what about karma? I hear a lot about karma these days. People at the wrong time bring up this aspect of karma in our philosophy. Not that it isn't true. It's a Vedic, it's a true knowledge which we have to understand, that we have to be responsible for all our actions, and we make our own destiny. But there is a time and place to speak about it. So he did, because she asked him. He did say that we are the ones who make our own destiny. We make our own whatever actions we perform. There is a reaction to it, equal and opposite reaction. So the same reactions we get. So actually, we don't have anybody to blame to. So she said, you think I should start self-blaming myself now for everything which is happening to me? What wrong have I done? I've never done anything wrong in my life. So there were a lot of difficult questions she was asking. That I've not done anything wrong in my life. He said, sometimes in life you have to look at what can I do now, rather than the reason behind why a certain reaction is taking place. because then you can make it into an opportunity and move forward in that, and from there, rather than staying in that position. Like sometimes we do that with our difficulties, that when we go through a difficult situation, then that difficult situation makes we live in that difficult situation, sometimes even in the most happy situations. We remember that situation and we start feeling sad. He says, but there is another way to look at it, that you can make this into an opportunity to connect, to receive that grace, because only when you are hungry you can eat food and you can digest it. If we are not hungry, we will not be able to digest that food. We will feel pukey, we'll say, oh God, I'm so full, I cannot have it. But at this point of time, you are very, very hungry, and you'll be able to digest whatever grace the Lord is trying to give it to you. Use it as an opportunity to move forward, because life is all about learning lessons and moving forward. From our past, nobody is judging. The Lord doesn't judge us for our mistakes. Neither does people who are following this path, because we all tend to make mistakes. But wherever the darkness ends, when the light enters our life, that is the day. So she said, she at that point of time said, is there a way that I can use this as an opportunity? I can learn from this situation. He said, yeah, you can actually experience the greatest pleasure and the greatest love, which is there, for you. And all of a sudden there was the people around them, the starters, okay, the flight is going. So, and just go to the washroom. So everybody started asking, why go to the washroom? So it says, I'm sorry, we were trying to fix the AC, but the washrooms got spoiled. So till the time you're in the flight, you can't use the washroom. So this was, so over there, the mothers were pushing their children. Pee now. No, Mom, I don't want to. No, you have to. That commotion, because of her situation, she did not lose focus. She said, do you think meditation will help? I said, absolutely. That's the way to connect to the Supreme Lord. That's the way to connect to the reservoir of all pleasure, all happiness. That's the way in all the commotion around you, you can still be peaceful and happy. He says, then tell me, what can I do? So he explained about what is mantra meditation. Mantra is something which tras hata deta hai man ka, removes all anxiety from the heart. So he said, which God do you believe? He says, do you think but there are different gods. Your God and my God will be different. He says, actually, God is one. There are no different gods. There's like the sun, which is present in every country. Somewhere it's called Surya, somewhere it's called Sol, somewhere it's called Sun. It's called by different names, but God is one. So he said, what name do you chant? So she says, I don't have any name of God which I chant. So she said, tell me, what do you chant? He says, okay, I'll write it down for you. He gave it to her in writing, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. And she held on to that. And she was taken on the wheelchair to the airplane. And lo and behold, the washrooms were definitely not working, but neither was the AC. Neither was the AC for still. So you can imagine the commotion which might have been there for 1.5 to 2 hours sitting in that plane. Children were crying, people were sweating, they were shouting at the staff and everything. And she was way behind where His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj was sitting. But whenever he looked back, she was able to connect. She was connecting to the chanting of the Lord's name. She was able to connect to the Supreme Lord. All that commotion which was around her immediately around her, and the distress and the depression which was there in her heart, all that was kind of not a hindrance in her path to reach her goal. Her purpose is to connect to the Supreme Lord. So she went, when the flight landed, she went down, she waited for Radhanath Swami Maharaj. And when he reached her, she said, I really have to thank you. Now I'm not fearful of death, because I know, like Socrates, when he was about to be, taken for execution. So when he was asked, he says, if you find me, you can kill me. So you can't, because he understood, he might not have understood the philosophy perfectly, but he understood that he's not this body for sure. Somebody which is within the body. So I thought I'll tell you this little story and how she...
Beautiful. I think you've told us so much through this story.
Yes, so right. I think it had so many insights and wisdom hidden here. I think lots. Beautiful. I was just listening to you and I was thinking that now these days, not only in India but globally, spiritual practices have become mainstream. Practices to for patients also to heal, whether it is chanting, whether it is meditation, whether it is just listening to wise people and spiritual talks. What, according to you, is the connection? How do you feel that these can improve our health?
So I don't know. Most of the types of medicines which we have, or alternative medicines, they always say. I remember this friend of mine, her daughter, when she was 4 years old, she was detected with cancer, and at that point of time, she was going through chemo, and she was asked to not meet her siblings also, because they could be a carrier of some disease, because the immunity goes really down. But then, one of the doctors came, and he said that it was her birthday coming. She was going to turn 5. He says, no, make her happy and call her siblings, around her, because happiness is the way that the body and the mind can fight with the disease.
Exactly. You're so right. Mm-hmm.
So it's not only the physical medicines or anything, not only the meditations, but the happiness state, the happiness quotient, which is there in the body, which helps you to fight that disease. So definitely all these things put together, like I was saying, mental, spiritual, emotional, physical, they all are, you cannot let any of those boxes not be ticked. These days we are putting so much more pressure, so much more concentration on physical aspect of it. How much do we earn? How much do we?
Correct.
All those things are there, but the spirituality really helps. And if I may say so, in a scripture for Kali Yuga, it is written that mantra, because we people do not have, in Srimad Bhagavatam, if you ever study, maybe we can sometimes study together. It's written clearly that, we won't have long memory span, and, we'll not be able to remember things. We'll be egoistic. We'll be, so many things are there. But because of that reason, because we cannot concentrate on one thing, sometimes the mantra which is there, it helps us to concentrate and rise beyond. So, so definitely it helps in the body also. They're all connected.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think one, of course, you speak so beautifully, and second, we want these answers also, because even I personally have been using the spiritual. I give spirituality a major importance in the overall health, because all these practices, whether we are chanting or we are just sitting in dhyana, or we are just meditating, all these change our inner physiology.
Absolutely.
And when you say happiness, yes, we release those hormones inside. And we may not go into the clinical aspect of it, but the fact is, each time we get into these activities, we are making these little shifts inside, which is improving our health, which is giving us this inner peace and joy and happiness, which also takes care of our overall health. So it impacts our body, it impacts our emotions and our feelings, and also the stressors of life. I think you're much calmer because your whole metabolism, your whole body changes, and you become a peaceful person inside. And so, thank you so much for that.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Grace, because that was awesome. Because I think you told it so beautifully as a story. And I think it left such a big impact on us. But I think more the connecting the fact that when we're talking today, that it's about the mind, it's about the body, it's about the purpose and the soul, and these four wheels. And we couldn't have said it like the four wheels, but it is these four wheels, the pillars on which we stand, that need to run properly. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I think it was beautiful listening to you. Thank you.
Pleasure and honor that you invited me. Really grateful to you.
So I think we've had a wonderful session today, Kirti, and I'm sure everyone, it was a very enriching one. And we not only spoke of holistic health, we spoke about the importance of this the interconnectedness. This is not in isolation, that mind is separate, body is separate, and our emotions are separate. They're all interlinked. And that also brings me feeling, very happy that when I talk about integrating systems in our Prana Center, we are going the right way, because the health or happiness cannot be in silence. It has to be together. And all these components, the mind, the body, the soul, the spirituality, everything contributes to a happiness, long life, and a more meaningful and fulfilling life. And I think each one of us today, we had some amazing experts, women experts today. Such a joyful and proud moment that we could listen to all of them. And I think we should have such sessions more often, where we can listen and use all this information for our lives and make our life much more beautiful and healthier day by day. So thank you so much. Sipping Thoughts, Sukirti, it's always a pleasure. You bring so much of excitement and joy to this whole platform, and it's always amazing to be doing this with you. And of course, Business World is there, and our esteemed guests. Thank you so much, Grace Radharani ji. I think it was beautiful, and thank you for sparing your time. And of course, Suzy, Dr. Monica, and Sukirti, thank you so much for also having me on this platform.
Well, thank you, everyone, and thank you for being with us today. Thank you, Dr. Monica. Thank you, Dr. Ashima. Thank you, Suzy. Thank you, Her Grace. It was an absolutely beautiful way for us to celebrate Women's Day. I don't think we could celebrate it better than with these amazing women that, understand that holistic health is really the number one, and we need to focus on it. So thank you, and I wish all of you a great Women's Day. And yes, we must do this more often. I'm just reading some of the messages. Can we get the recording? Yes, you can. It will be on Sipping Thoughts. Thank you. Amazing session. Lot of learning. Thank you very much. Great session. So thank you all for making our Women's Day incredibly special.